Rohan was a young mechanic who lived in a small, quiet town. His house was next to his garage, which was old and dusty but full of tools, engines, and half-finished machines. He loved fixing machines. Ever since he was a boy, Rohan enjoyed taking things apart, understanding how they worked and putting them back together. For him, machines were like puzzles, and he loved solving them. One bright morning, Rohan was cleaning his garage when he heard soft footsteps outside. Looking up, he saw a girl sitting in a wheelchair. Her hair was tied in a neat braid, and her eyes were bright with hope. She smiled at him shyly. "Hello," she said softly. "My name is Mira. I have a dream." Rohan wiped his hands on his cloth and walked toward her. "Hello, Mira. What is your dream?" he asked. Mira's eyes shone. "I want to fly one day. I want to see the world from the sky, but I cannot walk, so I cannot go on planes like other people. I was told that maybe someone like you can help me." Rohan looked at her carefully. He had never built a plane before, and helping a paralyzed girl fly sounded impossible. But when he saw her hopeful face, he felt a strong desire to help her. There was something about her courage that touched his heart. "I will try," Rohan said slowly. "I will build a plane for you. It might take time, but we will make it happen." Mira's face lit up with joy. "You mean it, really?" "Really," Rohan replied with a small smile. From that day, Rohan's routine changed. Every morning, he woke up early and went to his garage. He studied books about planes, engines, and wings. He drew designs on paper and made small models with scrap materials. At first, he struggled to understand everything. The machines would not work properly, the engines were noisy, and sometimes the wings were unbalanced. But Rohan did not give up. Mira came to the garage often. She watched him work and asked questions. Sometimes she suggested ideas. Her excitement encouraged Rohan more than anything else. Even when the machine failed or broke down, her smile made him continue. People in the town noticed Rohan's new project. Some laughed and said it was impossible. "He is a mechanic, not an engineer," they said. "A plane? For a girl who cannot walk? He will fail." Rohan ignored them. He knew that dreams were more powerful than doubts. He believed that if he worked hard, he could make the impossible possible. Mira's belief in him gave him strength. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months. Rohan collected old engines, metal sheets, wheels, and tools. He worked long hours, often forgetting to eat. He tried different designs, tested small engines, and repaired broken parts. Sometimes he stayed awake all night thinking about how to make the plane strong, safe, and easy for Mira to use. Despite the challenges, Rohan felt happiness. Every small progress gave him joy. A wing attached properly, an engine starting without trouble, or a wheel turning smoothly felt like a small victory. Mira would clap her hands and say, "It is beautiful. I can almost feel myself flying." The town began to notice the dedication of Rohan and Mira. Slowly, people stopped laughing and started watching with curiosity. Some even offered old parts and tools to help. They were amazed at Rohan's courage and Mira's hope. One evening, as the sun set behind the hills, Rohan sat beside Mira outside the garage. The sky was painted in orange and pink, and the soft wind touched their faces. Mira looked at him and whispered, "Do you think we can really fly someday?" Rohan smiled, looking at the colors in the sky. "Yes, Mira, we will fly. You and I together. We will see the world from above, and no one will ever tell us it is impossible." And with that promise, Rohan felt a warmth in his heart. He knew the journey would be long and difficult, but he was ready. Together, they were going to turn a dream into reality. The garage was no longer just a place of machines. It had become a place of hope, courage, and dreams that could touch the sky. After promising Mira that they would fly together, Rohan's life became busier than ever. Every morning, he woke up before the sun and went straight to his garage. The old place was crowded with engines, metal sheets, wheels, and tools. He had drawn several designs for the plane, but turning those drawings into a real flying machine was harder than he imagined. Rohan started with the engine. It was old and rusty, found in the back of his garage. He cleaned every part carefully, polished the metal, and replaced broken pieces. Many times the engine refused to start. The noise was loud and frightening, but Rohan stayed calm. He remembered Mira's smile and kept trying. Slowly, the engine began to work. It was not perfect, but it gave Rohan hope. Next, he worked on the wings. They had to be strong yet light. Rohan cut metal sheets and joined them carefully. Sometimes the wings bent or broke, and he had to start over. It was frustrating, but he learned from each mistake. Mira came every day to see his progress. She would ask questions, and sometimes her curiosity helped Rohan think differently. "Rohan," Mira said one day, pointing at the small model plane on the table, "what if we make the wings longer? Maybe it will fly higher." Rohan smiled. "That is a good idea, Mira. I will try it tomorrow." Small ideas like these made Rohan more creative. He began to imagine new ways to build the plane, ways that no one else in the town had thought of. But building a plane was not easy. Every day brought new challenges. Some parts were missing, some machines broke, and sometimes the plans did not work. People in the town still doubted Rohan. Some laughed when they saw the wings leaning to one side. Others shook their heads and said, "Stop wasting your time." "It will never work," Rohan ignored them. He knew that doubt was always louder than hope. Mira's faith in him was stronger than any criticism. Whenever he felt tired or frustrated, he looked at her face. Her eyes were full of trust and happiness. That was enough to keep him going. One afternoon, Rohan had a small accident. A heavy metal sheet fell near him. He was fine, but it scared him. Mira held his hand and said softly, "It's okay, Rohan. Be careful, but do not stop. We are almost there." Rohan realized that working alone would take much longer. He began asking friends and neighbors for help. Some were skilled in fixing machines, others were good at measuring and cutting metal. Slowly, a small team formed around Rohan and Mira. Everyone started to believe in their dream. Together, they worked on the plane, sharing ideas and helping each other. Even at night, Rohan would sit with Mira and discuss plans. They imagined the first flight, the view from above, and the feeling of freedom. Their conversations made the dream feel closer each day. The garage became a place full of energy, ideas, and laughter. Rohan also studied books about flight. He learned about balance, engines, and safety. He experimented with small models before applying ideas to the real plane. Each test taught him something new. Sometimes it failed, sometimes it worked, but Rohan never gave up. Every failure was a lesson. As weeks passed, the plane slowly took shape. The engine was ready, the wings were strong, and the body of the plane looked solid. Mira watched every step with excitement. She often said, "Rohan, it is looking real. I can feel it. Soon we will fly." The small town began to notice their hard work. People who laughed before started to watch quietly. They saw Rohan's dedication and Mira's hope. Slowly, doubt turned into admiration. The impossible dream of a paralyzed girl flying in a plane built by a young mechanic seemed possible now. By the time the sun set one evening, Rohan stood outside his garage with Mira. The plane was not complete yet, but it looked strong and real. Rohan looked at the sky and whispered, "We will do it, Mira. Soon you will fly." Mira held his hand and smiled. "I believe in you, Rohan. I know we can do it." And in that quiet moment, with the orange sun lighting the town, Rohan felt a new strength. The challenge was still big, but now he knew that together they could overcome anything. The dream of flight was no longer just a wish. It was starting to become real. Building a plane was much harder than Rohan had imagined. He had designs, small models, and even an engine that worked, but he still needed the right materials. Strong metal, wheels, wires, and other parts were not easy to find in a small town. Rohan knew that without these, the plane would never fly. One morning, he told Mira about his plan. "We need more materials, Mira. I will have to travel to nearby towns and markets. Some parts are rare and some are expensive, but I will find them." Mira smiled. "I will wait here and help you as much as I can. Don't worry, Rohan. I know you will find everything we need." Rohan packed a small bag with money, tools, and a list of parts. He started walking to the nearby towns, visiting markets and shops. Some sellers laughed when they heard his plan. "A plane for a girl who cannot walk? Why do you need so many parts?" they asked. Rohan simply smiled. "I need them. Please show me what you have." Slowly, he began finding what he needed. Old engines, metal sheets, wires, and wheels were collected one by one. Some were broken, but Rohan had a plan. He could repair almost anything. At one shop, he found a set of wheels that were too small. He bought them anyway and promised himself he would find a way to make them fit. The hardest part was the wings. They had to be very strong, but also light. Rohan visited a town far away, where a kind shopkeeper had metal sheets that were just right. They were expensive, but Rohan used his savings and bought them. The shopkeeper smiled and said, "I hope your plane flies one day. You have a brave heart, young man. On his way back, Rohan carried the metal sheets carefully. It was not easy, but he thought about Mira. Every step he took made him feel stronger. When he returned to the garage, Mira was waiting. Her eyes lit up as she saw the new materials. "You brought everything." "Thank you, Rohan. I can feel the plane getting closer." Back in the garage, Rohan worked day and night. He repaired old engines, adjusted wheels, and shaped the wings. Sometimes he tried parts in different ways, testing which worked best. Mira watched him with excitement. She suggested small changes and helped him hold heavy parts. Together they solved many problems. One day, Rohan realized he was missing a special type of metal for the plane's tail. He searched nearby towns but could not find it. He almost gave up, but then he remembered an old scrapyard on the edge of the town. The next morning, he went there. He dug through old machines, car parts, and sheets of metal. Hours passed, and finally he found exactly what he needed. His heart leaped with joy. "See, Mira? Nothing is impossible," he said when he returned to the garage. Mira clapped her hands. "I knew you would find it, Rohan. Our plane is becoming real." With all the materials gathered, Rohan began the most important work, assembling the plane. Every metal sheet, wire, and wheel had a special place. He worked carefully, measuring and adjusting. Mira gave him advice and encouragement at every step. She cleaned small parts, held tools, and always reminded him to rest when he was tired. The townspeople began noticing the plane taking shape. At first, they were curious. Slowly, they started to admire Rohan's dedication. Some offered help, bringing small tools or old parts they had at home. The garage was full of energy. Everyone who came felt inspired by Rohan and Mira's teamwork. By the end of the month, the plane was almost ready. The body was strong, the wings were set, and the engine was repaired. Rohan stood back and looked at his work. It was not perfect, but it was strong and real. Mira rolled her wheelchair closer and touched the plane's surface. "It looks amazing, Rohan. Soon I will fly." "I can feel it in my heart." Rohan smiled and felt hope fill his chest. He knew the journey was not over, but gathering the materials and building the plane had brought them one step closer. Every challenge they faced made them stronger, and every small victory made the dream of flying more real. The sun set behind the hills and the plane stood in the garage, waiting. Rohan and Mira looked at it together, imagining the day they would lift off the ground. It was a dream that had started in their hearts and was slowly becoming real in the world. After months of hard work, the plane was finally ready. Its body was strong, the wings were steady, and the engine was repaired and polished. Rohan could hardly believe his eyes. The small garage that once held only old tools and rusty parts now had a real plane standing proudly in the middle. Rohan turned to Mira, who had been watching every step of the building process. Her eyes were wide with excitement. "Rohan," she said, "it looks so real. I can feel it. We will fly soon, won't we?" "Yes, Mira," Rohan replied with a smile. "Today we will do a small test. We will not go high yet, but we will see if it can move safely on the ground." Mira nodded. She felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. She had waited for this moment for so long, but now that it was here, her heart raced. She trusted Rohan completely, and that trust gave her courage. The town had heard rumors about the plane, and a small crowd gathered at the open field near the garage. Children ran around excitedly, while adults whispered and watched with curiosity. Some were still doubtful, but most had come to see if the dream of the mechanic and the girl could really come true. Rohan checked the engine one last time. He adjusted the wheels, examined the wings, and made sure the tail was secure. He wiped his hands on a cloth and looked at Mira. "Are you ready?" he asked. Mira nodded. "I am ready, Rohan. Let's do this together." Slowly, Rohan helped Mira into the seat of the plane. She sat carefully, fastening the seatbelt. Rohan climbed in behind her to guide the controls. The engine started with a roar and a cloud of smoke rose into the morning sky. The crowd gasped. The plane moved forward slowly at first, then faster. Rohan kept his hands steady on the controls. Mira laughed as the wind touched her face. She had never felt anything like it before. For a moment, it felt as if she were flying, even though the plane was still on the ground. Children in the crowd clapped their hands and shouted in excitement. "Look, it is moving! It is moving!" The plane lifted slightly off the ground, bouncing gently on its wheels. Rohan smiled. "It is working, Mira. We are doing it." The plane moved smoothly along the field. Rohan carefully tested the brakes and steering. Everything worked perfectly. Mira's laughter was filled with pure joy. She had imagined this moment for years, and now it was real. After a few minutes, Rohan slowed the plane and brought it to a safe stop. The engine turned off and the field was quiet for a moment. Then the crowd erupted into cheers and applause. People who had once doubted Rohan now watched in admiration. Some even wiped tears from their eyes, moved by the courage and determination of the young mechanic and the girl in the wheelchair. Mira turned to Rohan, her face glowing. "Rohan, did you see? We did it." "I felt like I was really flying." Rohan laughed and helped her out of the seat. "Yes, Mira, today was only the beginning. Soon we will fly higher and farther. Today we proved that our dream is possible." The townspeople came forward, congratulating Rohan and Mira. They offered help, advice, and sometimes even small tools or materials they had at home. Everyone wanted to be part of this amazing project. The garage, once quiet and dusty, was now full of energy and hope. That evening, Rohan and Mira sat outside the garage, watching the sun set behind the hills. The plane stood in the middle of the field, strong and ready. Mira whispered, "One day, Rohan, we will see the world from above. I can feel it." Rohan looked at her and nodded. "Yes, Mira, we will fly higher than we ever imagined. Today was only the first step. Tomorrow the sky will be ours." As the night fell and stars began to shine, Rohan felt proud and happy. The first test had succeeded. Their dream was no longer just a wish. It had become real, and the journey to the sky had only just begun. The first test flight had been a success. Mira's laughter still echoed in Rohan's mind as he cleaned tools in the garage the next morning. The town had watched the plane move, and people were now curious and supportive. Rohan felt proud, but he also knew the journey was far from over. The plane still needed adjustments before Mira could truly fly high. While Rohan worked, a small envelope appeared on the garage door. It was folded neatly and had no name on it. Rohan picked it up carefully. The paper was old and slightly yellowed, but the writing was clear. It said sunrise. Open field. SUVs will come. Be ready, Rohan frowned. He had no idea who could have sent the note. He showed it to Mira, who tilted her head and studied it. "Who do you think sent it?" she asked, her voice curious but calm. "I don't know," Rohan replied, "but it seems important. Someone wants to see the plane. Or maybe you." Mira smiled softly. "It sounds exciting. Let's go tomorrow and find out." Rohan nodded, though he felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. He had learned to expect challenges, but this was different. He did not know who the visitors were, or why they were coming in SUVs. Could it be engineers? Reporters? Or someone else entirely? The rest of the day, Rohan prepared the plane. He polished the wings, checked the engine, and tightened every bolt. Mira helped by organizing small tools and cleaning parts of the plane. Together they worked in quiet focus, both thinking about what the next day might bring. That night, Rohan barely slept. He kept imagining a convoy of vehicles arriving at the field, and people stepping out to see their plane. What if something went wrong? What if the plane did not work as expected? But then he remembered the first test flight. The plane had moved smoothly, the engine had roared, and Mira had laughed with joy. That memory gave him confidence. At dawn, the sky was painted in shades of orange and pink. Rohan and Mira arrived at the open field before sunrise. The grass was still wet with morning dew, and the air was crisp. They positioned the plane carefully, ready for whatever was about to happen. Not long after, in the distance, Rohan saw a line of SUVs moving slowly toward the field. Dust rose behind the vehicles as they approached. Mira's eyes widened in excitement. "Rohan, they are coming!" "Look," Rohan nodded. "Stay calm, Mira. Let's see who they are first." As the convoy arrived, doors opened and people stepped out. They wore professional clothing and carried small equipment. Some were engineers. Others had cameras and notebooks. They looked at the plane with interest and admiration. Rohan felt a mix of pride and nervousness. Who were these people and why were they here? One man holding a clipboard walked toward Rohan. "Are you Rohan?" he asked politely. "Yes," Rohan replied. "And this is Mira," the man smiled. "We heard about your project. We wanted to see it in person. It is rare to see such determination and creativity. We are here to help and learn more." Rohan blinked in surprise. Mira's eyes sparkled. "Rohan, they came because of us. They believe in our dream," the man continued. "We are engineers and aviation enthusiasts. We travel to small towns when we hear about unique projects like yours. Your plane is amazing and we want to support you if you are ready. Rohan felt his heart race. Months of hard work, failures, and small victories had led to this moment. He looked at Mira, who smiled confidently. Together they had made people believe that dreams, no matter how impossible they seemed, could become real. The convoy parked carefully around the field, and the people began inspecting the plane. Rohan explained how he built it, showing engines, wings, and wheels. Mira added small details and shared her excitement about flying one day. The visitors nodded and asked questions, impressed by the work of the young mechanic and the paralyzed girl. By the time the sun rose fully, the field was alive with energy. Rohan realized that the mysterious note had been a doorway to something bigger than he had imagined. A new chapter in their journey was about to begin, one that would bring their dream closer to the sky than ever before. The sun had just risen, casting golden light over the field. Rohan and Mira stood beside their plane, their hearts racing with anticipation. From the horizon, a convoy of SUVs slowly approached. Dust swirled behind the vehicles and the engines hummed like distant thunder. Mira leaned forward slightly, her eyes shining. "Rohan, they are really coming. I wonder who all of them are." Rohan nodded, tightening his hands around the plane's controls. "Let's stay calm. We will find out soon." As the SUVs arrived, the doors opened and people began stepping out. They wore neat clothes and some carried clipboards, cameras, and small tools. Their expressions were full of curiosity and excitement. Rohan realized that this was not just a visit. They had come with purpose. One of the men, tall with silver hair and glasses, approached Rohan first. "Are you Rohan?" he asked kindly. "Yes," Rohan replied. "And this is Mira. She is the reason for the plane." The man smiled warmly. "We have heard about your project. It is rare to see someone so determined. We came to see the plane and your work. My name is Mr. Anand. These are my colleagues." He gestured to others who nodded politely. Mira's wheelchair squeaked softly as she moved closer. "Rohan, they came because of our dream. Isn't that amazing?" Rohan smiled, feeling a mix of pride and nervousness. "Yes, Mira. Now we just need to show them what we have done." The visitors walked slowly around the plane, examining every part carefully. Some touched the wings gently, while others looked at the engine and wheels. They asked questions, and Rohan explained every detail. How he repaired the engine, shaped the wings, and made the plane safe for Mira. Mira also spoke, sharing her excitement about flying and how the plane was giving her hope. One of the younger engineers leaned closer to the plane. "This is remarkable," he said. "You have built this with very limited resources. Most projects like this would require a large team and big machines, but you did it alone with a little help from Mira." Rohan felt a warm glow of pride. He had spent months working tirelessly, often alone, facing failures and doubts. And now, these visitors were not only impressed, but they wanted to help. Mr. Anand smiled at Mira. "You have given him courage, and together you have built something amazing. We are here to support you if you are ready to take the next step." Mira's eyes sparkled. "Next step, you mean flying higher?" Rohan nodded. "Yes, Mira, we can do more now, but we have to be careful." The engineers and visitors started giving suggestions. They showed Rohan small tools and techniques that could make the plane even safer. They discussed ways to strengthen the wings and improve the engine. Rohan listened carefully, learning quickly. He realized that their visit was a chance to make the plane better than ever before. The children from the town had gathered around too, watching silently. Some of them had never seen a plane so close. They whispered to each other, amazed that a small-town mechanic and a girl in a wheelchair had created something so incredible. By mid-morning, the visitors had tested the plane's engine and wheels. They smiled at Rohan and Mira. "You are ready for the first proper flight," Mr. Anand said. "We will help guide you. It will be safe and it will be memorable." Mira's laughter bubbled out like music. "Rohan, can you believe it? Today we will really fly with so many people watching. I am so happy." Rohan adjusted the controls of the plane. "Yes, Mira, today is special. But remember, we will take it slow. Safety first." The convoy had changed the field into a small gathering of encouragement and support. Rohan realized that the mysterious message had been more than a warning. It was an opportunity, a way to bring people who believed in dreams together. The sun climbed higher and the plane sat ready in the middle of the field. Rohan and Mira took a deep breath. Around them, people watched, hoping, believing, and cheering. The first proper flight was about to begin, and it would mark a new chapter in their journey. The field was alive with excitement. The convoy of SUVs had parked neatly, and engineers, reporters, and townspeople stood around the plane, their eyes full of curiosity and admiration. Rohan adjusted the seatbelt for Mira one last time, making sure everything was perfect. Her eyes sparkled with anticipation, and her hands gripped the edges of her wheelchair. "Are you ready, Mira?" Rohan asked gently. Mira nodded eagerly. "Yes, Rohan, let's do this. I can feel it. We are going to fly." Rohan took a deep breath and climbed into the plane. The engine roared to life smoothly, a sound that was both thrilling and comforting. He tested the controls once more, making sure the wings, wheels, and brakes were all ready. Everything was in place. Slowly, Rohan began moving the plane forward. The wheels rolled over the grass and the crowd gasped as the plane picked up speed. Mira laughed, feeling the wind on her face. It was a feeling she had imagined for years, and now it was real. The plane lifted gently off the ground. The field below grew smaller, and the crowd watched in amazement. Children clapped and shouted, "Look! She's flying! She's really flying!" Rohan guided the plane carefully, making smooth turns and gentle rises. Mira's laughter was full of pure joy. For her, this was more than a flight, it was freedom. She felt the sky around her, the wind in her hair, and the thrill of doing something she had never thought possible. The engineers from the convoy observed closely, impressed by the stability and design of the plane. Mr. Anand, the leader, nodded to Rohan. "You have done an extraordinary job," he said. "The plane is strong, safe, and perfectly designed for her. You both should be proud." Mira looked at Rohan with sparkling eyes. "We did it, Rohan. We really did it." The plane circled the field once more and then descended smoothly to the ground. Rohan slowed the engine and brought the plane to a gentle stop. The crowd erupted into applause, clapping and cheering loudly. Reporters took pictures and engineers exchanged impressed smiles. One of the journalists approached Rohan with a notebook. "This is incredible," he said. "Your story is inspiring. You built a plane for a girl who cannot walk, and now she can fly. Would you like to share your journey with others?" Rohan smiled humbly. "It was not just me. Mira inspired me every day, and the town helped in small ways. This is a story about hope, teamwork, and believing in dreams." The engineers offered Rohan opportunities to improve the plane and even build more for children with disabilities. They promised training, support, and resources to make the project bigger and better. Rohan could hardly believe it. His small dream had grown into something much larger, touching many lives. Mira was overjoyed. "Rohan, do you see? People believe in us now. Our dream is bigger than ever." Rohan laughed softly. "Yes, Mira, but we will take one step at a time. Today we celebrated our first proper flight. Tomorrow we can make it even better." The townspeople surrounded Rohan and Mira, congratulating them. They brought small gifts, old parts, and kind words. Some admitted they had doubted the dream before, but now they were proud. Children who had watched from a distance were inspired. Many of them spoke of their own dreams and how they could try to make them real, just like Mira and Rohan had. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in golden and pink colors, Rohan and Mira sat beside the plane. The wind was soft and the field was quiet except for distant cheers. Mira leaned toward Rohan. "I feel like we can do anything now." Rohan nodded. "Yes, Mira. Today we showed the world what determination and hope can do. But remember, this is only the beginning. We will keep flying, and we will inspire more people." The plane stood tall in the field, a symbol of courage, friendship, and dreams that could come true. Rohan knew that the journey ahead would have more challenges, but today they had achieved something incredible. They had turned imagination into reality, and the sky was now open for Mira to explore. The convoy of SUVs prepared to leave, but they promised to return and support Rohan and Mira in their future flights. The field was emptying slowly, but the memory of the first proper flight stayed in everyone's hearts. As night fell and stars appeared in the sky, Rohan looked at Mira and whispered, "We did it. Today we flew. Tomorrow we will fly even higher." Mira smiled, holding his hand. "Yes, Rohan. The sky is ours now." After the first proper flight, Rohan and Mira returned to the garage with a new sense of purpose. The plane had proven itself, and so had their courage. But more importantly, they had shown the town and the visitors that determination, hope, and teamwork could make the impossible possible. The following weeks were filled with preparation for more flights. Engineers from the convoy returned regularly to guide Rohan, offering advice on strengthening the plane and improving safety. Rohan learned quickly, absorbing every lesson with patience and care. Mira remained his constant companion, helping in any way she could and sharing her excitement at every step. Children from the town often visited the garage. They were curious about the plane, asking questions about wings, engines, and flying. Rohan explained patiently, and Mira shared her own experiences. Soon, the garage was no longer just a place for work. It had become a place of learning, hope, and dreams. One bright morning, Rohan prepared the plane for another flight. This time, Mira was not alone in her excitement. A few children with disabilities joined her in wheelchairs, their faces full of anticipation. They had heard about the first flight and wanted to experience it themselves. Rohan smiled as he looked at them. "Are you ready?" he asked. "Yes," the children shouted together, their laughter echoing in the field. The plane's engine roared to life, and the crowd watched eagerly. Rohan guided the plane carefully, lifting it smoothly into the sky. Mira laughed with joy, and the other children gasped in delight as they felt the wind and the thrill of flight. For them, it was more than fun. It was freedom, adventure, and hope. The engineers watched proudly. "Rohan," one said, "you have not only built a plane, but you have also created a dream for many others." "This is extraordinary." Rohan felt warmth in his heart. He looked at Mira, whose eyes shone brighter than ever. "We did it together," he said softly. "This is just the beginning." The town began to change too. People who once doubted them now offered support, advice, and encouragement. They had seen the power of hope, teamwork, and dedication. The small garage became famous not just for the plane, but for the dream it represented. Visitors came from other towns to see the plane and meet Rohan and Mira. Each visit brought inspiration and opportunities to grow. One evening, as the sun set behind the hills, Rohan and Mira sat beside the plane. The sky was painted in shades of orange and pink, and a gentle wind touched their faces. Mira turned to Rohan and whispered, "Do you remember when I told you I wanted to fly? I never imagined it would feel this real." Rohan smiled and held her hand. "I do, Mira, and now not only can you fly, but others can too. We have turned a dream into something that can help many people." The plane stood beside them, ready for future flights. Its wings reflected the sunlight and its engine rested quietly, waiting for the next adventure. Rohan realized that the journey was far from over. There would be more flights, more children to help, and more dreams to fulfill, but he also knew that anything was possible when people believed in each other. Mira looked at the horizon. "Rohan, do you think one day we can fly above the hills and see the world beyond our town?" Rohan laughed softly. "Yes, Mira. One day we will fly higher than the hills, across rivers and forests, and maybe even over cities we have never seen. The sky is open for us." As the night fell, the stars twinkled above them. Rohan and Mira knew that every star was a symbol of hope, just like their journey. They had started with a dream, faced challenges, and now they had inspired many others. The small garage had become a place where dreams could take flight, where courage and hope made impossible things possible. Together, they looked at the plane and then at the sky, knowing that tomorrow would bring another adventure. The sunrise would come again, and with it new dreams, new flights, and new possibilities. For Rohan and Mira, the journey was only beginning. But one thing was certain. Their hearts and spirits were free, and their dreams would continue to soar, high above the world for everyone to see.